You satisfied with the position you're in? You're a good boy. Hello. I am making another video for Koala in the Basement, and today's topic will be about kitties. Nah, I'm kidding. It's gonna be about something a little more serious. It's gonna be about depression. Now I have my Dragon Ball shirt on for a reason. And I'll get into that a little bit later. But yeah, basically, I wanted to kind of discuss my viewpoints and my personal experiences with depression. And I don't know. I think in a lot of ways, I wanted to kind of be a maybe not be, but I guess it helps when I kind of put myself out here. I just upload this video discussing some personal thoughts. It's kind of like reaching out into the universe, hoping that others will kind of respond. I find that there's like a lack of genuine motivation behind creating things lately. Whether it is something like making like Instagram videos or TikTok videos or YouTube videos, I find it's more and more centered around the person trying to sell you something, rather than doing it for the sake of doing it or doing it for the satisfaction that it brings. I personally, it brings me a lot of satisfaction to make these kinds of videos, not because I'm trying to sell something down the line, trying to get you hooked so I can sell you a book or something later. Nah. Still haven't started writing a book. Maybe one day. Definitely one day. I definitely want to do that. But more so for me, this is about connecting with all you random people on the internet. Kind of to show that you're not alone. And that, I don't know, that's pretty much about it, honestly. As far as depression goes, there's an anime called Neon Genesis Evangelion, and anyone who is a fan of anime has probably heard of it. If you haven't and you don't like anime, that's fine. However, I would encourage you to check out the last 2 episodes of it. It's on Netflix. At this point, I'm pretty sure everyone has access to Netflix. But use your friend's account if you don't. The last 2 episodes of the main show. And a lot of people hate those 2 episodes. I encourage you to watch the whole thing, even though sometimes it's if you're not a fan of anime, it can get a little boring. Although, I have watched it with people who never watched anime before, and they've enjoyed it, so who knows. The last 2 episodes kind of dive into the psyche of the characters in the show. And after watching it now several times, and I recently rewatched it again, I realized that a lot of the things and the problems and the issues that these characters are faced with are kind of broad and exist across a spectrum that everyone can connect with. And I think that's why it's such a popular show, why it has such a huge cult following. It's because it dives into things that everyone can relate to. And depression, anxiety, and the stress that comes along with that. It's represented in this show, and in a pretty good way, I would say. It doesn't give any solutions for these problems, because I don't really think that there is a solution, right? I think, especially nowadays, now this is a common, I would say, idea. This idea that like people have more time now to think about their existence, their feelings, and to dwell on things, and to I mean, I'm not saying that that wasn't the case 50 to 100 years ago or more, but I feel like 100 years ago people were hoping not to die in World War One, or two. Let's say 120 years ago, right? They were hoping not to die in World War One, and 100 or 80 years ago they were hoping not to die in World War Two. And that kind of took their, the general population's mind off of trivial things like, why am I here? I mean, it's not like those questions didn't exist. I just feel like, what do I know, Maybe we just didn't calculate it the same way we do now. But apparently there's an ever-growing, persistent problem of people dealing with depression, anxiety, and suicidal thoughts. And I spent a lot of time thinking about it. Well, the point that I was trying to make about 100 years ago was that, or 150 years ago, you were more worried about dying of dysentery than you were about feeling sad about life and existence and your circumstances. Life was very different back then. In today's kind of media-driven, ad-driven world, where there is this idea that we need to have certain things in order to attain happiness, it's really, really easy to get caught up in feeling what I believe is like the basis for depression. And that's insecurity. It's very easy to feel insecure, and it's very easy to put yourself down if you look at some of these things. You look at some of these people who are famous, you look at celebrities, and I believe that like obsession over celebrity culture is, at an all-time high, especially considering like Instagram. It's like, considering the popularity of Instagram, considering the popularity of platforms like Twitch, you can say that like, oh, celebrity culture is dead, but I don't agree with that. I think it's just transformed into something even worse. And it allows for certain people who get lucky, or who put in the amount of time and effort and energy that it takes, or have certain things like perhaps a high charisma stat, let's say. It allows them to get to a point where their job becomes entertaining you, right? Their job becomes doing things that people find to be like a hobby, right? It's difficult not to feel depressed when you have to work a job that you don't enjoy, when you have to live in a society that doesn't encourage or doesn't, and I'm mostly speaking for the United States. I know other parts of the world are a little bit better. Where are you going? Oh, he's done. He doesn't want to hear it. He's like, you're annoying. Quit being depressed. So, yeah, I'm speaking about America. United States specifically. Even though, if you look at it objectively, our lives were safer than we've ever been before. We have access to medical care and information that allows us to live the healthiest possible lives that we have I think, in the history of humanity, from my understanding. Except for like when we were like apparently hunters and gatherers, regardless of like giant animals eating us or disease killing us, like in terms of our health and our diet, which I think is very important as well. Regardless, that was a kind of tangential thing. Doesn't matter. Let's talk about now. And right now, it's like a plague affecting people. It's depression. I've fallen victim to it as well. And maybe that's why I'm compelled to make these videos, because I would definitely say it alleviates some of that for me personally. I've realized that forcing myself, as much as I don't want to, as much as I just want to lay there and do nothing and hope or pretend that I don't exist, doing something like creating art, or just going and seeing people, even though I really don't want to. I want to seclude myself from society, you know? Those things that I don't want to do, when I force myself to do them, make me feel a little bit better. And so back to the underlying issue with depression, which I believe is more so like, or not more so, but the underlying issue with depression being this idea that depression stems from a lack of positive self-esteem, as well as a tendency to seclude oneself from society. Loneliness plays a big factor. And I'm sure if anyone here has been dealing with depression, they've heard this before. And if you haven't, it's this idea that depression is a natural part of our brains, essentially, that was kind of formed when we would get separated from the tribe. I don't remember exactly why depression happened. It was kind of just like to ease. It was, to motivate us to get back to the tribe, right? It's like we want to be part of that tribe and part of the village and part of the society of humanity, right? It's to encourage us to live together, because that's what we have, right? That's kind of like that primal motivating factor. Because if you were separated, you were more likely to die. Some big animal was going to kill you or whatever, you know. Now, I mean, maybe I butchered that a little bit, but that's, from my understanding, what I recall. So in a lot of ways, the thing that I found is most accurate is that low self-esteem, stemming from a constant bombardment of this idea that we need things to be satisfied and happy, that I need a new guitar, I need a nice computer, I need a nice car, whatever the case may be, to be happy. And those things, I'm not gonna lie, I mean, I think they definitely do provide some amount of satisfaction, but I've met filthy rich people, and some of them are extremely miserable. So obviously there comes a point, right? Now, I'm not sure if I want to come across with some kind of message for anybody. As I said, when I make this video, or when I was talking at the beginning of the video, this is more so for my own, maybe selfish therapeutic reasons. Kind of just talking to this camera feels pretty good. And to be honest, I probably don't even know what I'm talking about. I think I do a little bit though, and maybe that's like narcissistic or something, or overconfident, but and I'm not saying that I found a solution. But like I said, forcing myself to do these things that I don't want to do is very helpful. But not only that, it's also accepting certain things about yourself and being a little bit nicer to yourself, right? I have a high tendency to beat myself up, as with many, many other people. And I believe that a lot of people experience that, thinking that, you're not good enough for one reason or another. A lot of people I've met have that experience. And the more I come to accept certain things, especially things that I'm either insecure about or I believe that are my negative aspects about myself that I think I could improve upon. When I accept the good and bad about myself, I feel a lot better. And when I force myself to do things I don't want to do, I feel better. And also, and this ties into Dragon Ball, I feel like, why do people like Goku so much, right? It's obviously because, he's strong or whatever, but like, what makes him strong? Because he's not always been the strongest, right? Like in the best parts of Dragon Ball Z, he's had to fight his way to get to be the most powerful. But there's one common theme that I believe kind of follows Goku, and that kind of motivates his character and makes it so that he continues striving to get stronger, is this idea that he's courageous. And even in the face of difficulty, even when he's beat down onto the ground and he's about to die or does die, he always stands up to try and fight no matter what. And it's this common theme in the anime. It happens all the time. And it's this message of no matter how hard life beats you down, you should try and get up and try and fight. And I didn't really think of that consciously until relatively recently. But yeah, it's fighting in the face of adversity and whatever is kind of keeping you down, fighting against that and accepting certain things the way that they are, and just doing everything that you can in your own power to change your present and make a better future for yourself and for those around you. I also think that living for yourself is an important aspect as well. But also living for helping others too, right? I believe I heard somewhere that one of the most satisfying things that a human can do is help others. Do something nice for another person, right? It's very satisfying. And so I encourage everyone to try and do that, because not only does it make the world in general a better place, right? Which is kind of cliche and silly, but it's the truth. It also just makes us happier. There's this lack of community in the world right now, and it's exacerbated by the existence of platforms like YouTube, Instagram, all these kinds of things. It creates this void. But basically, it's kind of to some degree, it feels like there's this disease plaguing people, right? This idea that people, especially younger people, are willing to do ridiculous things for attention, for getting famous or wealthy off of TikTok or Instagram or whatever the case may be, because it seems like a viable path. What's the alternative? Doing something that they don't like for not too much pay, while we watch the billionaires and multimillionaires of the world barely doing anything and living their lives and doing whatever they want, and having so much power. It's kind of it reminds me of the Middle Ages, the medieval ages. it's like this idea that like kings were super powerful and then there were these peasants and that kind of thing, right? And like apparently we got rid of that, and now we're living in this great society where everyone has a chance. And I just don't think that's necessarily true, especially when we see how many people are like living in lower standards than is acceptable, I would say, especially if you're in America or the United States. And we see more and more that the wealthiest, most powerful people are just kind of hoarding everything for themselves, right? Like, how do you fight against that? It's like trying to like usurp a king, and like, you know, you can, you know, you can go run for you know, you can be a political leader, but a lot of these political leaders are bought off, you know, and so who's really in charge? You know, is it the people that we elect? I don't really think that they have much to do with the way our lives are run, and I think it's more of a facade and more of a show than anything. But that's kind of off topic. Let's get back, because I don't want to like depress anyone, because that's the point of the video, is not to depress anyone. It's to kind of like show that basically I don't think you're alone if you feel this way. There are other people that feel like you, including myself. And everyone wants more. I want more. And I have a lot. I would say my life is great. I don't need to make these videos. I'm not looking for money. Like, I am, obviously, but I don't need to do this for it, right? I'm not looking for anything really besides like this self-satisfaction that I'm getting from this, right? But I want more. I constantly think about, oh, I want more, you know? And it's difficult when we're constantly bombarded with advertisements, and I think they're a huge issue, honestly. The fact that everything we do on a daily basis is filled with advertisements that are constantly trying to sell us something. I mean, it makes me feel crazy. It drives me crazy. And even like content creators, like people who are supposed to be like these genuine people who we kind of look to for entertainment, whatever the case may be, it turns out that in so many ways, at the end of the day, they just want to sell you a product. And I'm personally tired of it. Like, I don't want to experience that anymore. I want to back to something real, you know? And it feels kind of silly to say that, because some people could argue that there are plenty of real things, right? And maybe I'm just not experiencing them, but it just seems like genuine content and genuine information, genuine people who love you and who like you for who you are and not for like what you can provide them. And an idea of like a community that's not looking to just get filthy rich and, you know, be the next whatever, Elon Musk or something like that, or be the next like startup millionaire or billionaire. It seems like everyone is trying for that, especially when you're in college. Everyone's like, hey, check out my idea. You know, it's like everyone wants that attention. Everyone wants that perfect life. Everyone wants more. Everyone looks around them and looks around and says, like, I want this, I want that. But I think the solution is to just accept what we have and accept who we are. And it's so difficult to do that. It's near impossible, it seems like, because we are constantly bombarded with advertisements, and even things that we find genuine, even people that we almost look up to. It's just, hey, buy my book, buy my t-shirt, buy my program, buy this, buy that, you know? I don't know. Anyway, I mean, that's a little cynical, but moral of the story, there is no moral of the story. I guess the point that I'm trying to get at is, like Goku, be brave, stand up, be courageous, even if it hurts, even if it's painful as hell, because you only have one life, which is something that I realized as I got older. It's like easy to like be depressed and miserable and lay around, do nothing, and want to die, you know, honestly. But for a long time, I held on to a coin, and I probably should still hold on to it now. It would probably help. But it was a memento mori, which is basically like a token that you hold with you at all times. That's a reminder of your mortality. That reminds you that even if right now sucks, or right now is beautiful, or whatever the case may be, whatever you're doing right now, one day you're going to die. And it reminds you to live in that type of way, to live in a way that would make you proud or make you satisfied with your existence. And I also don't think that implies that you have to live your life to this like fullest extent and like see the world and like do something super constructive and super great every single day and be this workhorse and all this kind of stuff. Like, no, I just don't think that that's the point of life. Like, I don't think we were put here to do that. And it's this like sick mentality that like gets embedded into our brains where it's like, oh, we look at these like millionaires and billionaires like on their boat and like going on vacations and doing all these things, but that stuff, it's great. But like, speaking from experience, like I've gotten the opportunity to travel and experience all different kinds of great things, and like it's fun, but like at a certain point you're like, why am I doing this? Am I just doing this for the sake of doing this? Like, and so many of these people like go and do these things because they want to like look cool on Instagram. And it's like, dude, the thing that feels the best is having a goal and like reaching for that goal, and not just like aimlessly traveling to take nice Instagram posts or something like that, you know? Like having a goal of like just a short-term goal. Like, I want to paint a picture of a dog. That's so satisfying. Like, it's easy relatively, right? If you only just took a little bit of time to do that. But like, it's so hard when our attention span is constantly bombarded with like ads and flashing images and like over excess in terms of like mental stimulation. And I'm only saying these things because I feel the same way too. It's hard for me to even like start. When I was a kid, all I did was draw, like every day, like 24/7, you know, like all I did was draw. And then when I got a little older, all I did was play guitar, you know, every day. All I wanted to do was come home from school and play guitar. And then I found something called video games. And then I had video games before, but I didn't like play them as much, I guess. Like when I got older, I found like World of Warcraft and other kinds of games. And don't get me wrong, they're fantastic. I love games. I've spent a lot of my life playing them. And I also discovered certain drugs. And all of those things have made it so now it almost feels difficult. It almost feels like a chore to do these things that I once loved so much. And I mean, look around. I mean, I'm in basically a really incredible home studio that I built with working somewhere else that had nothing to do with music. And I invested most of my spare income into this. And yeah, I mean, I was fortunate enough to have a good income with a good job or whatever, you know, but I left that. I quit because I was so miserable, you know. And for the last few years, I've basically been living off of like investments and the money that I made there. And it's honestly not a great feeling, because some days I wake up and I'm just like, I might go broke one day, and I'm gonna be fucked, you know. Like at a certain point, there's gonna be this monster looming over me who's like, bro, you gotta do stuff to pay your bills. And yeah, and in a lot of ways that takes away from the art as well, because it's like this idea of like, oh, I'm gonna make music and it's gonna be the greatest music ever, and you know, it's gonna pay all the bills. I'm gonna be famous. I'm gonna be rich. All that stuff. then why are you making the art? Is it because you want that? Is it because you want the money and the fame and all that stuff? That shouldn't be your goal. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong when thinking of that. And I've heard that argument that, like, oh, don't chase the money or whatever. It's just hard not to. You know what I mean? It's you want things. You want people to hear you out. Everyone wants to be special, right? I don't know. This has just been, at this point, just a rant all over the place. Completely full of tangents and senseless blabbering in all kinds of directions. I don't even remember why I started making this video, but it probably is because I was depressed. I was very depressed today, I would say, and I'll admit that, right? Debilitating in a way. I will say this, though. This is also something I wanted, because I remember that this is something I wanted to mention. I don't think that the solution to your depression or your anxiety is a magical pill. Some people might find that controversial. I don't care. Taking an antidepressant is not the solution to your unhappiness. And I don't think that you should search for happiness. I think that's a fallacy as well. I think that you should look to be content with yourself and to be at peace with what you have and with who you are, and to accept the things about yourself. It's so easy to preach that, but it's so difficult to actually, like, in practice, actively do these things and, like, follow your own principles or whatever you want to call it. And even now, just even gazing over at the camera sometimes, I'm like, oh, why am I doing this? Why am I acting like this? Like, you know, and that's why I think that depression in a lot of ways stems from insecurity. And having spoken to a fair amount of depressed people, I think that my assumption is correct for the most part. Maybe, you know, obviously everyone is different. Everyone has their own circumstances. I've personally never met anyone who has had long-term success with the magic antidepressant pills that they kind of force feed us from apparently a young age. I've been pretty thankful that I didn't take them, but I self-medicated in other ways, right? It is what it is. So, yeah, it's just, I think life is just difficult, and there are difficult things that we have to go through, and we all have our own journey and our own destiny, per se. And this whole recording has been pretty long. I'm pretty lazy, so I'm gonna unfortunately have to edit a bunch of this. But I don't really want to. But I should, because I should upload it. I will eventually. Eventually this will hit the internet. And it's gonna make waves. No, probably not. It's like 5 people are gonna watch it. That's okay, though. Ultimately, even if those 5 people watch some of it, and they disagree with me, and they hate me, and they think that everything I say is stupid, that's all right with me, I guess. It's kind of funny. Yeah, just doing one of these video logs of senseless blabber, talking to myself or talking to the pretend people on the other side of the camera that exists somewhere in the universe or in the world. Yeah, I just it's kind of entertaining, I guess, for myself, you know. So yeah, with that being said, hit that subscribe button now. Don't even worry about it. I don't even care. And yeah, go buy my book in 20 years. And go buy my t-shirts. Make me rich so I can be fulfilled. Anyway, stupid bullshit aside. Yeah, depression sucks. You're not alone if you feel that way. There's lots of people that are dealing with it, obviously, as you probably have been bombarded with on the internet as well already. Yeah. Do your best to accept who you are in your situation and strive, make some goals, some short-term goals. Strive to achieve those goals, as silly as they may seem. My therapist once said, I've only been to therapy, I've been like 5 sessions. But one of them, he mentioned a good technique for motivating yourself. And personally, I found it to be fantastic. It's this idea that you take a very minimal amount of time to like work towards the things that you want to do. I think it's like amazing. I encourage everyone to do it. So like, let's say like, you look at people who are like the best at like making music or making art or whatever the case may be, and you're like, man, if I could just work hours and hours on end and get to the point that they are, I'd be happy, whatever, right? And then you're overwhelmed at this idea that these guys work like 10 hours, the guys and girls work like 10 hours or more on these projects, and every day, and they become these masters, whatever, and they're like, I need to do that, but like 10 hours a day is daunting or whatever, like these absurd time frames and like this absurd overworking culture. But 15 minutes and you build your way up, right? And you don't hate yourself and beat yourself up because you didn't do what you were supposed to do and didn't do enough. You take your little 15-minute session and you get done whatever you can. And oftentimes I find is like when I'm like, all right, I'll do it for 15 minutes, I just end up doing it for longer because you're like, oh shit, this is actually pretty fun, this is actually pretty enjoyable. And then that's it. But you only devote 15. So if after 15 minutes you just don't feel it, you're just like, nah, I don't wanna keep doing this. You're like, okay, whatever, and then you just exit out of it, whatever, and then you continue feeling miserable, I guess, But over time, it gets easier and easier to set aside a longer period of time to work on these things. And I think if you just were able to take this tiny fraction of time, and like 15 minutes is like nothing, man, like nothing. That's like less than like an episode of something on Netflix, you know what I mean? Like, if you can just even set aside that much time to do something that is painful to start, like art or like learning something, whatever the case may be, just that 15 minutes every day, because you make it a habit, it turns into something that is like, when you don't do it, you get like antsy, even if it's something you don't necessarily like going to the gym, right? If you force yourself to do a little workout for, let's say you can't do 15, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, and you do that every single day, like I would say that every person in this world basically can spare 5-10 minutes every day to do something, set aside to do something that they maybe necessarily don't want to do. But if you take that tiny bit of time and you do it every day, it becomes a habit. And when it becomes that habit, it becomes easier to do, not because it's actually easier to do, but because you have like a urge to do it, like there's something inside you. And I've experienced that personally with like exercise, with like working out. When I first started out, I would just do like sit-ups and like push-ups and stuff like that, just nothing, right? But then like I just kept doing it every day, no matter what, like just for 5 minutes, for 10 minutes, whatever. And it took months for me. It took months, maybe even years. But eventually I got to a point where I'm now, where like if I don't work out for 2-3 days, I start feeling like, dude, I need to do it. Like there's like this, it's like a habit, and it's like something that like, it's like biting your nails or whatever, right? You like have this impulse to do it. And like things that are bad can become habits, like video games, like weed, like biting your nails, you know? So if those things can become habits, other things that are painful, like creating something, can also become a habit. So anyway, that's also for another video, but I don't know. I just felt like this is all kind of ties into this idea of depression, right? Because these things are important, because I think a lot of depression stems from these like different random topics that I kind of covered in this video. And I guess this is just kind of a culmination of everything that I've kind of learned, or that I personally used to cope with this feeling. And I find that overall, some of these things help, but a lot of things don't. And I don't think that there's an ultimate solution, but I do think that it probably just gets easier over time. Yeah, I mean, that's pretty much it, you know, just distracting yourself, unfortunately. I mean, and you just have to accept that. That's it's a copium, you know, it's just, you have to accept that it's there, and you have to live with it, and you have to face it. And I think if you're able to do that, and I'm getting closer to being able to do that, and the days that I do accept that it's there and deal with it and still push through, it lessens its effect on me. It's not as stifling. It's not as debilitating. So yeah, I think that's it. I'll probably cut this video down significantly, because I've been recording for like 50 minutes now. I don't think I really want to release a video like that. I've been trying to keep these video logs a little on the shorter side, because of attention span. I mean, I don't want to sit there and edit a 15-minute long thing either, you know? It's my own attention span, really, that I'm focusing on. I don't really want to sit there watching myself blabber and double checking to make sure I didn't say anything extra stupid. So yeah, until next time, if anyone here watches this and wants to message me and vent their circumstances to me, I will gladly listen. I've been told I'm a great listener. But yeah, anyway, take care. Peace. Peace. Be strong like Goku. Watch the end of Evangelion. 5, 10, 15 minutes of your thing that you want to do. And probably get yourself a cat too, that helps. Anyway, take care. See ya. Peace.